I am 81 years old. Every morning, the first thing I feel is the weight of the air in the room. It feels heavy, like it is pressing down on my chest, reminding me that my lungs do not work the way they used to. My day does not start with a cup of coffee or a look at the morning news. It starts with a series of small, calculated movements just to sit upright. I have to wait for my blood pressure to catch up, for the world to stop spinning, and for the dull, familiar ache in my lower back to settle into its daily rhythm. I live in a very large, very beautiful house. The floors are made of reclaimed oak, and the countertops are a dark, expensive marble that stays cold even in the summer. But these days I only live in about 400 square feet of it. I stay on the ground floor because the stairs have become a mountain I can no longer climb.
I have a primary suite that looks out over a garden I paid a lot of money to have landscaped, but I cannot walk through it anymore. The gravel paths are too uneven for my balance, and the air, even on a mild day, is often too thin for my heart to handle. This did not happen suddenly. I did not wake up one day and find myself broken. I earned this ending. I spent 45 years building a life that I am now too tired and too sick to actually live. I see people talking about success, about the grind, about the hustle, and I see myself 40 years ago. I see the man who thought he was being responsible. I see the man who thought he was being a provider. I thought I was winning, but I was really just trading pieces of my future health for numbers in a bank account that I now have no use for. When I was 32, I started a logistics company. It was the kind of work that never stopped.
I remember feeling a sense of pride in my exhaustion. I would stay at the office until 11 o'clock at night, fueled by black coffee and the kind of adrenaline that feels like a superpower when you are young. I told my wife it was temporary. I told her that we were building a foundation. I told myself that once we hit a certain level of revenue, I would slow down. I would go to the gym. I would eat better. I would take those long weekends we talked about. But the goalposts always moved. When we hit 1 million, I wanted 5. When we hit 5, I wanted to expand to the next state. I viewed my body as a machine that was supposed to serve my ambition. When I had headaches, I took aspirin and kept working. When my back started to seize up from sitting in office chairs and airplanes for 16 hours a day, I bought a more expensive chair. I didn't see the pain as a warning.
I saw it as an inconvenience. I saw it as a cost of doing business. I remember my doctor telling me when I was 45 that my blood pressure was creeping up. He used words like lifestyle modification and stress management. I remember nodding and smiling, then walking out of his office and taking a conference call in the parking lot. I thought he was being dramatic. I felt fine. I felt powerful. I had 300 employees and a house with a 4-car garage. I didn't have time to manage stress. I had a business to run. I spent my 50s in a blur of airports and boardrooms. I missed birthdays. I missed anniversaries. I missed the quiet moments of my children growing up. And all the while, I was ignoring the quiet accumulation of damage. I was skipping meals and replacing them with high-sodium takeout at my desk.
I was sleeping 4 hours a night and bragging about it, as if sleep was a luxury for the weak. I was thick around the middle, my breath was short when I walked across the parking lot, and I was constantly, perpetually vibrating with a kind of low-grade anxiety that I mistook for drive. By the time I hit 60, the foundation I thought I was building began to crumble, but not in the way I expected. The business was fine. The money was more than fine. It was my physical self that began to give way. It started with a tremor in my hand that I couldn't explain. Then came the diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, a direct result of 2 decades of poor eating and no movement. Then came the first heart procedure. I remember lying in that hospital bed, the fluorescent lights humming above me, and the first thing I thought about was my emails. I wasn't thinking about my wife's face or the fact that I had almost died. I was thinking about a contract that was supposed to be signed that Thursday. That is how deep the sickness goes. I had spent so long valuing myself by my output that I didn't know how to exist as a human being who was just trying to survive. I am 81 now, and the temporary state I lived in for 40 years
has become my permanent reality. I have chronic heart failure. My kidneys are failing. I have neuropathy in my feet that feels like I am walking on broken glass every single day. I have all the money I ever dreamed of, and more. I could buy a fleet of cars. I could buy a private jet. I could buy a small island. But I cannot buy a nervous system that doesn't ache. I cannot buy a heart that pumps efficiently.
I cannot buy back the cartilage in my knees that I wore down running through terminals to catch flights for meetings that no longer matter. It is a strange kind of clarity that comes when you realize your wealth is useless. I spend thousands of dollars a month on medications, on physical therapists who come to the house, on specialized equipment to help me get in and out of the shower. The money I worked so hard for is now just a fund for my slow decline. It isn't buying me pleasure. It isn't buying me adventure. It is just buying me a slightly more comfortable version of misery. I look at my bank statement sometimes and I feel a profound sense of irony. I traded my ability to taste food for the ability to buy the most expensive meals in the city. Now I am on a restricted diet of bland, low-sodium mush because my kidneys can't handle anything else.
I traded my ability to travel and see the world for the ability to buy first-class tickets. Now I am too frail to board a plane. I traded the time I should have spent with my family for the ability to leave them a massive inheritance. Now I sit in this big, silent house, and my children visit me out of a sense of duty, but we don't really know each other. We don't have a history of quiet Saturdays or shared hobbies. Our history is one of me being absent and them being provided for. I misunderstood what money could do. I thought money was a tool to build a life. I didn't realize that the process of getting the money was actually destroying the life I was trying to build. I thought health was a given, something that would always be there as long as I didn't have a catastrophic accident. I didn't understand that health is a currency too.
And it is the only currency that actually matters. Once you spend it, there is no way to earn it back. There is no overtime you can work to restore your arteries. There is no clever investment that can reverse the damage of 40 years of chronic stress. I see you, perhaps, listening to this. You are 30 or 40 or 50. You are tired. You are pushing yourself because you think you have to. You have goals. You have people counting on you. You think that you will fix your health later. You think that once you get through this next project, or this next year, or this next promotion, you will finally take care of yourself. I am here to tell you that later is a lie. There is no later. There is only the slow, quiet accumulation of the choices you are making right now. Every time you skip a meal to keep working, you are taking a loan out against your future.
Every time you ignore a pain in your body because you're too busy, you're paying a high interest rate that will eventually come due. And the bank of your body does not accept cash. It does not care about your title. It does not care how much you have in your 401k. When it comes to collect, it takes its payment in the form of your mobility, your breath, and your independence. I spent my life winning a game that had no prize. I have the trophy. It's this house, the accounts, the reputation. But I am sitting here in a chair I can barely get out of, looking at a garden I can't walk in, waiting for a nurse to come and give me my evening injections. The silence in this house is very heavy. It's the kind of silence that makes you think. I think about the mornings I could have gone for a walk with my wife, but chose to go to the office instead. I think about the vacations where I sat on the beach with a laptop, never once looking at the ocean. I think about the way I treated my body like an enemy to be conquered, rather than a home to be tended. I am not bitter. Bitterness takes too much energy, and I have very little of that left. I am just clear. I see the trade for what it was. It was a bad deal. I sold the sun for a gold-plated lamp. I sold the wind for a high-end air conditioner. I sold my life for the means to live, and by the time I had the means, the life was gone. There is no fixing this.
My doctor told me last week that we are now in the phase of management. That is a polite way of saying we are just waiting. We are managing the pain. We are managing the decline. We are trying to keep the machines running for as long as possible. There is no hope of recovery. There is no getting better.
At 81, with the life I led, the damage is the landscape. It is the permanent geography of my existence. I don't want to give you advice. Advice feels too much like I think I know better than you. And maybe I don't. Maybe you need the money. Maybe you have no choice. But I want you to know what the end of this road looks like for someone who won. I am a success story by every metric the world uses. And yet, if I could trade every cent, every piece of real estate, and every ounce of my reputation for one day of being 40 years old and able to take a deep, painless breath while walking through the woods, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would do it without a second thought. But I can't. The contract is signed. The price has been paid. I spend most of my time now just watching the light move across the floor. It's a slow process, the day passing.
I try to find small things to be grateful for. The taste of a piece of fruit. The way the sun feels on my hands through the window. A day where the neuropathy is a little less sharp than the day before. These are my victories now. They are very small. If this feels familiar to you, the drive, the exhaustion, the ignoring of the self, I hope you stop for a moment. Not because I told you to, but because you realize that you are the one who has to live in your body when the work is done. You are the one who has to occupy the remains of your health when the career is over. Make sure there is something left of you when you get there. I am 81. I have everything I ever wanted, and I have nothing at all. If you are willing to share your own story, or if you are feeling the weight of the trade you are making, I would be interested to hear it.
It is a lonely thing to realize these things when it is too late to change them. I think I'll try to rest now. The afternoon is always the hardest. The fatigue sets in deep, and the house feels even larger than it is. Thank you for listening. It helps, in a way, to say it out loud. It helps to admit that I was wrong about what mattered. I hope your evening is quiet. I hope you can take a deep breath. I hope you realize how much that is actually worth.